Welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. My name is Dr. Brooklyn Storm, and I help private practice owners align their business back with their soul's calling, with their big vision and with their soul's purpose. Unlike other private practice coaches, I've traveled the world in search of spiritual resources, spiritual tools, education and information so that you can have the transformation that your soul desires and needs so that you can up-level your business. How much fun is this? I love it so much. Guys, if you're not already a member of the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group, please check out the show notes. I would love for you to be there. In the meantime, thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Hi everyone, good morning, Brooklyn here. Welcome to another episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast. I'm so pleased that you're here, and I want to welcome all of the new subscribers as well. And I want to give a very special thank you and shout out to somebody in one of the counseling groups that I'm a part of that mentioned in one of her posts to a colleague of hers that she told her colleague about this podcast. So I just wanted to acknowledge you, Samantha. Thank you so much for sharing my podcast with Haley. I really can't thank you enough. It means the world to me to know that this content is landing for people. So let me get on with the show for you. One of the things that I wanted to do today was just go over, I guess, one of the questions that came up during the week, and that was from Maree. And Maree was saying that she wants to feel really self-assured, and she wants to feel really confident that she has what it takes to be successful, and that she wants to feel like she's really making a difference in people's life, and that her, in air quotes, gamble to stick with counseling is actually going to pay off. She'd like to feel at peace with her decision, whatever that is. But what happens is that sometimes she's finding that she wants to make informed decisions, but now it's gone to the extreme of over-informing herself so that hopefully she doesn't make another wrong choice. And she's very aware that this is quite possibly a major part of why she's feeling stuck. And this is so relevant, isn't it? Because I think we can all relate to being there. And, I see it all the time too. So when I'm talking to people, so as you know, I have clarity calls and they don't cost anybody anything. They're really just an opportunity for us to connect. And on these calls, sometimes, people want to know the ins and outs of absolutely everything. And then they want to go and check everything and double check everything, triple check everything, check with the accountant, check with the bookkeeper, check with hubby or a significant other, or do you know what I mean? It's all this checking and nothing ever happens. And it's so interesting to me, I guess, because I love working with soul. That's why my business is called Private Practice with Soul. And I believe that your answers come from the inside out. I would perhaps just say that I think what's happening here is we're in wounded masculine. And that wounded masculine space looks like, there's a fear here around not being informed, making a wrong choice, making a wrong decision, and kind of feeling really stuck in inertia. It's a process of collecting lots of paperwork, lots of documentation, speaking to lots of different people before making a choice. And then before you know it, either the choice doesn't get made because they're worried that it's going to be wrong. But here's what if Maree was a client of mine, this is probably, and Maree is obviously not her real name, by the way. I just pulled that out of thin air. But if she was a client of mine, a coaching client of mine, or even a mentoring client of mine, I guess the way that I would approach this is hard to do because it's very one-sided. I don't have her here with me to have a back and forth conversation. But what I would probably do is ask her, well, what would a wrong choice be? Like, is there any such thing as a wrong choice? And what would it take for you to be able to trust in your own ability to make decisions, because I feel like what's going on here is there's a reliance on the external, i.e. maybe there's a reliance on the external for approval, for validation, to not be judged, not be judged as doing the wrong thing, not be judged as not being good enough, not be judged as not qualified enough, all of those things perhaps. I think there's very much in this case, the energy is all around the external, isn't it? And that's a problem, because when you're so connected in with the external, what happens is you lose your sense of self, okay? It becomes more layers of all of the things that take us away from our core essence, that take us away from who we really are. It's like, I've spoken about this before on previous podcasts, but not for a while, so I feel comfortable going over it again now. But it's like, you know, when we're children, when we're really, really little, you know how adorable kids are, right? I just love them so much, and they say the best things, and they don't edit, and they're just so cute. You just want to like gobble them up, put them in your pocket and take them home, right? They're just the best. These children have, they're operating from the essence of love. Like, they've got nothing else. they operate from love. They see everything through the eyes of love. They receive things through the eyes of love. It's all just love, right? And I'm simplifying it, but I know you can roll with me on this. But that's like their little world, right? Their little pink bubble of love. And then what happens is, as they start to move through those developmental stages up until the age of about 7 to 12, what we start to see is, people around them in their lives start shaping their behavior by, giving them guidance around what's good and bad, right and wrong, up and down, left and right, all those sorts of things. And so as children, we learn what we need to do in order to get love. And we need to know what we shouldn't do if we don't want love taken away from us. And we see this like even, I don't know, when I was growing up, if I was naughty or something like that, I would be, love would be taken away. Love would be withheld. It was like you go to your room and you don't come out. You go to your room where you're isolated. Everybody else is playing. I'm from a big family. Everybody else is playing. You're going to miss out. You're going to be in your bedroom and you're going to miss out. And you do not come out of there until your father or I come and get you. So that was one example. So I learned really early on not to be naughty. And so I knew if I wanted to be loved, that I had to be quiet. As I grew up, because I was the eldest, I knew I had to be responsible. I knew I had to be the leader. I knew I had to take charge, and I had to lead my brother and my 4 sisters. I knew I had to set the example. Even when it conflicted with what I wanted to do, I knew I needed to set the example. And so I was given control or put in charge of little things like making sure my siblings had their showers and baths, making sure they had their school uniforms ready for the next day, making sure their lunches were ready for the next day. I was 11. But I had these jobs to do. And if I did those jobs, then I was rewarded with extra time with my parents. So everybody else would go to bed, but I would get to stay up an extra half an hour with my parents. So I learned very early on what I needed to do to get love. The other thing I knew I needed to do to get love was I needed to be succeeding all the time. I needed to be getting great marks, which I was an average student. I wasn't brilliant by any stretch of the means, but I worked hard. But I really excelled with physical things like ballet, dance, calisthenics, everything. Like, I won everything that I went into. And so when I would come home with a trophy, when I'll come home with first place, when I was in the newspaper for winning again, things like that, that's when my father would acknowledge me, and he would, say, "Good girl, I'm proud of you." But that was the only time he would ever say things like that. So I'm just sharing this with you as an example of how it works, right? So anyway, you went through that as well. And I'm sure as you're listening to my story, you're probably reflecting on your own and thinking, what did I have to do, to get love? Or maybe you haven't thought of this before, but it's something you'll start to think about over the next few days, probably. you're probably also aware now or thinking now about what you had to do to avoid having love withdrawn or taken away or shut down or something like that. Okay. That's how it feels. I know it's not like real. Of course, your parents always love you all the time, etc., but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, where was I going with this? Gosh, I swear I go off on these tangents sometimes. It'd be so different if you guys were in front of me because you could reel me back in. I really need an assistant, don't I? Somebody to sort of poke me from the side and say, this is what you were talking about. Just give me a second here. This was going somewhere. Right. Anyway, this shows up in your private practice. I think that's where this was going. I've completely lost my train of thought, guys. Okay, hang on. Just give me a second. I'm just going to pause this while I clear my mind and I will come back to you. Just hang on 1 second. Okay, I got it. So I was going to talk about how this manifests in your private practice, which is all about, things like being visible, making decisions, stuff like that, because a lot of those things are driven by this sense of, am I worthy enough? Okay. And this might not resonate with you. You might already think and believe 100% that you're worthy. But a lot of the women that I work with, when they come to me with a presenting problem and we dive more deeply into what's going on for them, what often is at the bottom of it is things like lack of self-worth, or they identify like not feeling good enough about themselves or their offer or how they help or how they serve, not feeling as qualified or as experienced or as good as other peers and things like that. And so what happens is when you're in your practice, you start to look to the external because you want love, right? I'm diving very deeply here. On some level, you want that acceptance, you want that love, you want that support. And so you learn through your exposure in these groups and through your exposure online and through your exposure with your practice and your clients and things like that, your behavior becomes shaped. And over time, what happens is you start, without consciously realizing it, to veer down a path where you end up so far removed from why you even started the business in the first place. Okay. And that's what happened to me too. And I know it's happened to so many of you. So I'm speaking to the psychologists now. Like for me, I was working in the Medicare model for eons, years and years and years. And do you know what? It took me so long to realize I didn't want to work in the Medicare model. That was never my goal. I never wanted to be assessing and diagnosing. That was never my passion. It was kind of just how the practice evolved because Medicare had just come in when I started my private practice. And so naturally, nearly all of my clients were Medicare clients, and Medicare have a framework and you've got to work to that. And so straight away, I'm getting shaped. My practice is getting shaped. And then over time, I pick up EAP contracts. And again, my practice is getting shaped. Now, I never dreamed about having an EAP contract. It was never my big vision to do EAP. It was never my big vision to do Medicare. But can you see how without having that plan in place, without having a focus, without having a vision, what happens is your behavior, who you are, gets shaped by the circumstances around your business. And so I want to share that with you so that you can kind of see how this all fits together. So when it comes to making choices and making decisions for your private practice, often what happens is we're thinking about all of these different layers that have taken us so far away from who we are that now we're questioning ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. There's self-doubt. And we're looking to others for approval because we still want to be accepted by our group, by our peers. But we're forgetting why we started this in the first place. Not all of us, but you know if I'm talking to you or not. So what I would suggest if you were my client and we were having this conversation, I would ask you about, hey, when you first became called to become a therapist, why was that? Like, what was going on for you in your life at that time that made this career path jump out at you and made it seem realistic and feasible and like something you really, really wanted to do? Like, was there a calling? Or, if there was a calling, what's the story behind that? Or if you just felt like, maybe the career chose you, what was the story there? Let's get back to that for a second, and let's anchor in, that's your why, okay? When people say, what's your big why? That's all they're talking about. So come back to that for a moment and allow yourself to be grounded back into that why. And from that space right there, you're in your soul. You're in your soul. And I want you to start making decisions from that soul space now. Okay, this is how it goes. Make decisions from that soul space now. And so if you're connecting in with your soul and you have a decision to make, all of a sudden receiving guidance becomes very, very easy. But here's the rub. When you do allow yourself to connect in the way that's right for you, to get that inner guidance, that inner knowing, you're dropping out of your head, right? Where there's all the fear and ego and risk taking and stuff like that. And we're just dropping into our heart where there's only love, okay? You have to then do two things. Number one, when you get the guidance, allow yourself to receive it. And by receiving it, I mean just say thank you and let it be. Don't then get in your head and argue the guidance that came through or pick holes in it or anything like that. We're not doing that. We're just going to allow the guidance to come through, and we're just going to accept it, say thank you and sit with it. And then when you're ready, take action on it. Nothing bad is going to happen to you when you connect in with that inner guidance. And if there's one thing that I want all women in private practice to know, it's that it's safe for you to be in your feminine energy. In fact, it's necessary for you to connect in with your feminine energy. Too many of us don't know what we're doing in private practice, and so we get stuck doing the things, and then we do more of the same things expecting a different result. You've heard this before. And then when that doesn't work, you go and find the next thing to do, or the next course to do, or the next PD to do, or the next qualification to do, or you always find something to do. And I want you to know it's less about what you're doing now, and it's more about who you are, who you're being, what you're feeling, your flow, your creativity, all those beautiful sensual things about you. And I don't mean sexual, I mean sensual, like touch, taste, sound, sight, smell, all those sorts of things, bringing them into your practice. It's about relationships. That feminine archetype is all about relationships, love, connecting, soul, trust, compassion, forgiveness for self, forgiveness for others, compassion for self, compassion for others, radical self-acceptance. And by that, I mean accepting yourself, warts and all. None of us is perfect, and none of us is where we kind of in our ego mind want to be. But what if you're exactly where you need to be right now? And what if there's a plan for you? What if there's purpose for you in being in this moment right now, right? What if you're in this moment right now because there's something better for you on the horizon? What if? All right? It's not all bad. So allow yourself to accept the present moment, accept the present circumstances, understand this is happening for a reason, for the business, and a reason for you. It'll be a reason for your growth. It'll be a reason for your abundance or prosperity. It'll be a reason for improving something. It'll be a reason for a transformation or a shift on a deeper soul level. There will always be a lesson that you can take from this present moment, from this present situation. But if you want to start experiencing your practice differently, in a way that would ignite passion in you, in a way that would energize you, in a way that you could see, 4, 5, or 6 clients a day, however many you see in your practice, and walk away from the day feeling amazing, feeling excited, feeling lit up, feeling like, wow, I can't wait to come back here tomorrow. Looking at your diary and seeing names in that diary and saying, oh my gosh, I can't wait to sit with her or him and, hear about how they've been going. Imagine that. What if you could do that? And what if there was someone or some way that you could, that you just don't know about yet? And what if this got to be really easy? What if this got to be something that you do in flow? I can show you. This is exactly why I wrote the private practice class. And that's something that we'll talk about later. But the enrollments for that happen at the end of June. But if you want any information beforehand, let me know and I can pop you on a little VIP list and you can get the first lot of information that comes out. And there's 50 places available for that, which is really, 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 really cool. And I'm so excited to work with everybody. But guys, I just wanted to share this important podcast with you today because I know what it's like when Maree's saying that she feels stuck in indecision and that causes her to not move forward with the practice despite a deep inner desire to do just that, move forward. I think it's so important that we unpack the deeper reasons around why this is happening and look at, what you can do to help yourself moving forward. And so the lesson today from this podcast is to bring yourself back into alignment by integrating the masculine and the feminine. I know, right? How cool is this? Don't you love it? I love it so much. Oh, yeah. Okay, I want to thank you very, 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 very much for being here today. Thank you so much for sharing this podcast. Again, I just want to say thank you so much to Samantha, for recommending the podcast, and to Haley, who's a new listener. Thank you so, 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 so much, guys. Have a beautiful midweek, and I'll talk to you on Saturday. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast today. If you're looking for clarity, if you need help with branding, your processes, and bringing everything into alignment with your soul's purpose for your private practice, head to the show notes and click the link for more information about the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group. You are going to love it. I can't wait to see you in there. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.